All right, guys, I have a bold prediction to make. I think Combat Sambo will rule the UFC all the way from 135 to 205. I say this because if you look at some of the biggest title contenders or guys that are just on the edge of getting a title, a lot of them are combat sambists. So if you look at the 135-pound division, he's a little bit further away than some of the other ones. But Umar Nurmagomedov, he's very close to getting a title shot. If he can beat Corey Sandhagen, there's a good likelihood the UFC will give him a title shot, especially because he's Dagestani and the UFC kind of favors them just a little bit. Next up, after that, at 145, we have Movsar Evloev. I only see one source that says he did combat sambo. Otherwise, it says he does wrestling, but he definitely is, even if he didn't do combat sambo itself, which one source I'm seeing said he did, he's definitely combat sambo adjacent and trained with a lot of combat sambists. He's knocking right on the door of the 145-pound division. Good chance he could fight Ilia Topuria if Topuria doesn't go ahead and fight, who is it? Brian Ortega, yeah. Ilia Topuria is for some reason calling out Brian Ortega, which is ludicrous to me. I think he should fight Movsar or he should fight Max Holloway. Max Holloway is probably more likely who he should fight, but Movsar's right there as an option for title contendership, and I think he has a decent chance of winning if he sticks to grappling. Next up, at 155, we already have a combat sambo champion, is Islam Makhachev. He's killing it, and I think he's going to end up beating Dustin Poirier. I think he's actually better pretty much everywhere except for strict boxing than Dustin Poirier. But I'm seeing on his Instagram and his YouTube that he's working a lot on his boxing, and I think he's planning on trying to knock out Poirier with boxing, which is a little bit worrying, but I think he has a good chance at still winning either way. Next up at 170, I think we have probably the best title contender that was a Sambist, and I think that is Shavkat Rakhmonov. He's been utterly dominant throughout his whole career, being, I believe it's 17 or 18-0 all finishes. You don't get there without being extremely dominant, and I think the fact that he's a finisher, unlike Leon Edwards, I think he'll be able to take the title in no time. After Bilal and Leon get done fighting, and I think Leon will still win that with his kickboxing, I think Shavkat will end up fighting Leon and taking the belt, especially with his grappling. Shavkat has some slick striking, but I think he can match Edwards in the striking and beat him in the grappling. Next up after that, at 185, we have another Sambo world champion, and that is Ikram Aliskerov. He's not yet in the rankings, but everything he's shown outside of the rankings shows that he has great potential to make it into the rankings and will eventually get a title shot, in my opinion. He did fight Hamzat Chimaev a while back over in Russia, I believe, in a smaller organization. And he lost to Hamzat. But I think he's gotten a lot better. His cardio is a ton better than Hamzat's now, I believe. And I think Hamzat's kind of fallen off due to inactivity and sickness, because whenever Hamzat got COVID, it really, really hurt him. And I think Hamzat won't be the force that he was back when he fought Ikram Aliskerov over in Eastern Europe back in the day. And lastly, at 205, man, I'm going to have to look up his name. I just blanked. Let's see. He literally just fought Jan Blachowicz. Oh, man, why am I blanking on this? Magomed Ankalaev, that's his name. Yep, Magomed Ankalaev did fight for a title against Jan Blachowicz, and I honestly do think that was reasonably a draw. the fight went pretty well for Magomed in the last few rounds. So I think he has a good chance of coming back up and getting a title once Alex Pereira is gone. I don't think he's good enough to beat Alex Pereira in the striking, which I think he's going to try to, because he said, I want to beat Alex Pereira in the striking. I'm not just a grappler, but I don't think he has that ability. I think Alex Pereira just has a death touch. And once Alex Pereira decides to go for the heavyweight title, gets that, then retires because Pereira's getting a little bit older himself, I think Magomed Ankalaev will be the next person to rule over the light heavyweight division. So, yeah, I think Combat Sambo is going to rule over all of the divisions except for the very ends of the spectrum, the flyweights and the heavyweights. I'm not seeing any heavyweights that really have a Combat Sambo background that are going to be able to make it up to the title. The most notable heavyweight that had a Combat Sambo background was Fedor, and he's kind of out of the game now, so there's no real chance for Combat Sambo at heavyweight. And I didn't really see anyone at flyweight that caught my attention. And I think Combat Sambo dominates in MMA because you have kids at 11, 12, 13 already doing essentially amateur MMA fights over in Eastern Europe consistently. They're fighting hard, and they're getting MMA training almost every day. So they grow up in the culture of fighting a little bit more than us, and I think that breeds really good fighters, and that's why now that you're seeing more Combat Sambists in the UFC, they're just running through almost every division that they're in. So I hope you guys enjoy the video, and I hope my prediction comes true, because it also helps me get new students, and I just like seeing the sport that I'm involved in grow. So leave comments down below on which one of the guys that I talked about that you think may not make it, or if you think I'm right. Let's have a discussion down in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe.